Good evening and welcome back to 31 Horror Nights. It's October 18th and tonight's movie is Hangman. Hangman is a 2015 camera POV thriller movie from the UK and revolves around a family suffering from a home invasion. A lot of this seems to be made up of security camera footage, like security cameras that I assume the family set up in their home, but maybe it was like Alone with Her and the home invader put them in. This is something I see in a lot of camera POV horror movies where the villain is either one of the people making footage or the primary one making footage. I have absolutely no idea why this movie is called Hangman though. And now I'm literally just imagining a Jigsaw-ified version of Hangman where like every letter you guess wrong, they cut off a limb or something like that. That's almost certainly not the case, but part of me really wants to believe. I'm gonna go give it a watch. There was unfortunately not Jigsaw Hangman, and that would have at least been something. This movie, I really didn't think it was very good. I'm giving it a 4 out of 10. When thinking about Hangman, the word that I keep going back to in my mind is bland. Like, this is a lot of stuff that I have seen in different horror movies, and there's nothing about this movie that's clever enough or well done enough to distract from both how generic it is and how much of a stretch this is when it comes to the premise. I can say this in the non-spoiler section because this is made obvious within like the first 30 minutes of the movie. This isn't just like someone bugging another person's security system or something like that. This is someone breaking into a home and setting up security cameras all over it. And not just that, setting up a base of operation in the attic of that house. And the intruder isn't content to just stay up in the attic and watch things on all the cameras. No, he constantly goes down into the house while they're there and does stuff, and he is never noticed. And there were so many scenes of this movie where it's unbelievable that they didn't notice. And by unbelievable, I mean I don't actually believe it. It felt like a contrivance for the sake of keeping the plot going. Everybody in this household has to be deaf, stupid, and, like, partially blind. Especially considering the fact that the initial break-in was not covered up at all. When the family got back, their house was ransacked. They knew somebody broke in. So with having that happened not too long ago, I can't imagine somebody like going downstairs and getting a snack in the middle of the night while there's somebody else not just in the room, but in the room and like walking closer and not being able to hear it or see it or sense it in any way. It doesn't matter how dark the room is or how quiet the other person is trying to be. Just like Ratter, Hangman reminded me very much of Alone with Her, and I'm starting to feel like maybe I didn't give Alone with Her enough credit, because that movie at the very least was effective. Hangman, not so much. I think a big part of that is the fact that we actually knew a little bit about Doug, like we saw him, he was like a character. The intruder in this movie has no character because he never talks until like the very end of the movie. We never even see his face. Considering how much screen time him and his actions get, he might qualify as the main character of the movie, and I don't know anything about him. And there's no fun, like, air of mystery either. This movie was not compelling enough to distract me from how many leaps they had to make in order to set this premise up. The actual cameras itself were really weird to me because, you know, you live in a house, you know what things look like. So the fact that there were this many cameras hidden in the house and nobody in the family notices a single one of them. Like, these have to be some really small cameras that can also do like high-def video with night vision. But eventually I was able to put that aside because, you know, what does that really matter? Let's just assume that this guy has access to state-of-the-art technology. It was more the scenes again and again of the intruder like following the mother and daughter around out in public, or the scenes where in the middle of the night he will be walking around and just standing over people's beds recording them, or the scenes where he would literally be 2 feet away or just around a corner moving around and nobody hears him. The scenes, they kept adding up. There wasn't really anything egregiously terrible about Hangman, but it was just so full of things that I've already seen before, and also just not even executed that well. There's nothing interesting about the villain, there's not really anything interesting about the family. Every single scene went exactly the way you think it was going to go. There wasn't really anything surprising in this movie at all. And I've talked in the past that being a little derivative isn't like a deal breaker. But Hangman wasn't even good at the cliches that it was filled with. If you want to see this type of movie done better, probably Paranormal Activity 2, because it was the same sort of thing with the home security system, except this time it actually was a ghost, and it made sense that it was able to do all that stuff without being noticed. This movie I just thought was bland. And now I want to go into a couple spoilers. One thing that's made clear pretty early on is that the intruder has a fixation on the mother of the family, and to a lesser extent also the teenage daughter in the family. Like, there was a scene where the mom was taking a shower, and the intruder literally, walked and stood outside of the shower that she was using while she was using it, and she didn't notice anything. And later he, went back and re-looked at that footage again and, paused at moments where you could see her butt or something. The daughter, Marley, also had, a secret boyfriend, and he would, follow her and him around. He did end up murdering the daughter's boyfriend, but nothing really came of that. We don't even know if she found out. Definitely the dumbest thing in this movie is what he did with the young son of the family. I don't know how old this kid is supposed to be. He looked like maybe 11 or 12, but he must be a lot younger with the way that they're treating him. He was actually played by the kid from Insidious, and that was before this. But the thing that's so dumb about that is that somehow the intruder was able to make the kid think he was dreaming and talk to him as this imaginary whatever dream creature in his dreams and whisper to him and tell him stuff. I just looked it up. That actor was at the very least over the age of 10 at the time. I don't buy that. Also, there was a point where the intruder literally peed on the floor right outside of the kid's bedroom, and the mom assumed that the kid did it? Anyway, for most of the movie, he just kind of messes with them. For example, the daughter, tried to intercept her report card so she could hide it from her parents, but he took their card and put it on their bed. But then at the end of the movie, or towards the end of the movie, he drugs wine that he knows that the mom will drink. And this is serious drugs. She's knocked out cold. He takes her upstairs and the scene ends. We can assume what happened. And later on, she finds out that she's pregnant. And then he also does some stuff to make the mom think that the dad is cheating on her with one of their friends. But I don't really know the point of that, because literally a minute after that scene with the confrontation about the supposed affair, that's when he strikes. He lures the father up to the attic and turns up really loud music, which I guess is supposed to disguise the noise of a murder, because then he drops the father's body through the hole in the ceiling, hanging by his neck from a noose, so that might be why he's called Hangman, or why the movie's called Hangman, and then he just murders the mom, and that's it. The next scene is him finding a new family to infiltrate. Hangman was basically just alone with her, but less believable in setup and with a less interesting villain. The setup, the idea of somebody living in your house and watching everything you do is creepy, but that premise is not enough to carry the movie on its own. You need to add some stuff to it, and this movie didn't really do that for me. The Poughkeepsie Tapes was a much better example of a voyeuristic criminal mastermind. This movie was really just meh. Thanks for listening. I'll see you tomorrow.